If the Book of Mormon is a fabrication, how did Joseph Smith, a young farm boy with limited formal education, produce such a comprehensive and complex text in such a short time?
Joseph Smith was actually very educated. To learn more, I encourage you to read this article by William Davis, in which he breaks down how many years Joseph went to school and how intelligent he was. In fact, when Joseph Smith went to trial in 1826 for being a glass looker, he said that he was still attending school, and he was 20. As for the short amount of time that it took Joseph Smith to translate the Book of Mormon, let's look at the timeline. According to his mother's history, as early as 1823, Joseph Smith was telling stories of the Book of Mormon to his family and telling them not to tell anyone else. About 4 years later, in 1827, Joseph claims to have received the golden plates. And the following year, in 1828, Joseph begins the dictation process. Then in June of 1828, Joseph takes a 9-month break because Martin Harris lost the 116 pages. Joseph begins the dictation process again in March of 1829. And he's finished with the book in June of 1829. This could give Joseph as much as 5.5 years to come up with the contents for the Book of Mormon.
How could he invent the detailed histories, the cultural practices, internal consistencies, and the intricate chiasmus found within the text?
The Book of Mormon is not actually very complex. Joseph doesn't seem to understand the law of Moses, and when introducing unique names, he says them once and then never says them again. And in many instances, the Book of Mormon not only contradicts the Bible, but it contradicts itself. As far as chiasms go, the presence of chiasms in the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price, and in Joseph Smith's own personal letters, significantly reduces the likelihood that the Book of Mormon chiasms are an evidence for it being an ancient text. It's more likely that Joseph was just really good at that type of poetry.
How could he have known things that were later confirmed by archaeological and linguistic research?
What things were confirmed later? The Book of Mormon makes no sense linguistically, and from what I've seen, DNA evidence suggests that Joseph Smith's statements on the indigenous people of the Book of Mormon are not true.
In addition to that, how do you explain the profound spiritual impacts the Book of Mormon has had on millions of people? If the Book of Mormon was a simple invention, how could it inspire such spiritual experiences?
As to this question, I think you're intelligent enough to know the answer. How could people have such profound spiritual experiences while reading other religious texts? Texts like the Quran, or the Analects of Confucius, or the Rig Veda.
The creation of the Book of Mormon was either divinely inspired or the greatest con of all time, making Joseph Smith the greatest con man of all time. Reading story after story about the character and nature of Joseph Smith, it doesn't seem likely at all that he would be that way.
From my perspective, reading story after story of the true character and nature of Joseph Smith, it seems completely likely that he could have simply fabricated the Book of Mormon.